Yes, here we go. It's the P.M.P. It was Hearts 2, Celtic 0. Fucking hell, man. Every chance we get, this seems to happen. Frustrating one. Terry joins us. I know he's just had a wee refreshment before we got started there, didn't you, Terry?
I did.
We need all the Dutch courage we can get before coming on here. We know what we can expect for the live chat. I'm sure it'll be pretty lively. We'll do all that good stuff very quickly. Give us a wee like, thumbs up, thumbs down, nobody cares. Hit the subscribe button, or if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, $1.99 a month. The content's all free. It just keeps the wheels on the road. There's 100 of you already in, so I am expecting it, as I say, to be a bit of a lively one after what was a disappointing day at the office after a very promising start to the weekend yesterday. I listened to Brendan Rodgers' post-match interview in the BBC just before coming on live, Terry. He seemed to want to very much home in and focus on the incompetence, or he described it as the competency of the officials from VAR, including one of our most experienced referees, John Beaton. That's where his focus was. I'm interested to find out where yours is.
Well, Bhoycie, you've known me for a couple of years now. I don't usually like to focus on referees and things like that. I prefer to think that we should have enough to get the job done regardless. But in terms of this one, I totally echo the manager's comments. Brendan's a really classy guy, right? And he doesn't usually go down that route. So for him to focus on that, I think tells you everything that you need to know. For him to specifically call out one individual who decided to make this match all about him, when really he shouldn't have had minimal impact on the game. I mean, we'll obviously go through the passages of play. It just goes wrong from the moment we miss the penalty, which is really the story of this season. I think if we'd scored all our penalties, we'd be about 5 or 6 points clear at least. But there's just things happened in that game today that are just totally wrong. And we're Celtic fans, we're biased, we're blinkered. I like to think that the guys on the Bhoycie Bus are quite realistic, and you know, we sort of don't like to land things at the feet of outside influences, and we prefer to focus on the team. But there was just instances in that game that are just totally wrong, and I'm not going to come on here and gloss over them. I think they need to be spoken about. They need to be talked about. Brendan doesn't go down that route without good reason, and there was dark arts at play today, Bhoycie, and people will talk about Celtic's performance. I think that the catalyst is the penalty, right? And he should score it, and it's one of the worst penalties I've ever seen, and it blows this theory that Arameda's the penalty taker. I don't know what he's thinking about. What I did actually note before he ran up to hit it, and this isn't me being wise after the event, but you can actually see his eyes veer over to the Hearts Ultra group behind the net, and I think he's allowed them to get in his head. That's an absolutely shocking penalty. My young fellas that I was watching earlier this morning could hit a penalty better than that. For a professional footballer to make such a poor contact with a penalty kick, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. The keeper's gone the wrong way, but the penalty's so bad. It's so bad that his trailing leg saves it. And from that moment, everything else that comes after that wouldn't have happened if he'd put the ball in the net, because it's a totally different game. The ball goes back to the centre circle. Yang doesn't get sent off. None of that stuff happens. Yes, there might have been other things happen, but the game would not have played out.
Right, a lot to take in there, but I totally agree with you that I think the penalty was the massive turning point in the game. But
you know what, we'd been better if he hadn't given it.
Right, okay, that's one way. But if you're saying to me that there was dark arts at work today, then I still think those similar bad decisions then get made, whether the penalty goes in or not. Because why would they, if they're going to go at the dark arts, why would they not? Because Celtic have went in front. It doesn't make sense.
It does make sense because the game plays out in a totally different direction. Those opportunities that then presented themselves may not have presented themselves.
Yang
for example,
high boot at the touchline.
What?
Yang's high boot at beside the touchline.
That wouldn't have happened because the ball would have been in the net. From Ida's penalty, the ball would have been in the net. It wouldn't have come back into play. It would have went back to the centre circle. That ball wouldn't have happened. That incident with Yang wouldn't have happened if Ida scores his penalty.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is it's that inconspicuous. Do you know what I mean? What happened in that occasion that they would probably if you think it was dark arts, then I think they'd went looking for it whether they scored the penalty or not. That's all I'm trying to say. I think other decisions would have went against us. That's all I'm trying to say to you.
But maybe not as critical.
Maybe not as critical, but that's only because you've got a goal advantage. But certainly I think the same effort would be made if that's the line we're going down. When it comes to the penalty, you're spot on in what you say about the standard of it. Apparently, this is the 5th out of 14 penalties we've missed this season. That's over a third.
Unacceptable.
Over a third. That is poor, Terry. Do you know what I mean? Like a really
unacceptable.
I agree.
Well,
and I thought
it's unacceptable for a professional footballer to take a penalty kick like that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Not good enough.
Yeah, it was poor because see when he took the other couple of penalties when he started, one of the reliefs that we had was the fact someone was stepping up. I shown a bit of confidence, a bit of composure in these must-do scenarios, and the must-do is you must, score. That's what you've got to do. Smell the glove says it's 5th out of the last 10.
See, even if that goes in the net, Bhoycie, that's still a bad penalty.
Look at that.
Yeah, but that's still a bad penalty. If that goes in, it's still a bad penalty. To side foot
it, I hear you.
With so little power to side foot it down the middle.
Weird,
It's just unacceptable. Hang on 2 seconds, Bhoycie here.
You're all right, mate. He's back on the sandbook.
I'm going to have another wee quick sandbook. Listen, and then I'm going on the milk because that's me done.
Oh, is that you done after that? Right, you're on the milk. Cool. I just think that when it comes to there's a level, but there's a big difference as well between bottling it and the pressure getting to you, and then with Ida's penalty, it was just so substandard. It was just shite, and you're like, come on, mate. I expect a wee bit more from someone whose confidence is meant to be sky high right now. A guy who's influencing outcomes midweek. A guy who influenced outcomes the weekend before. You're expecting this guy to have a wee bit of swagger, a wee bit of gallousness, for want of a better expression. And sadly, it was really lacking. I do think the game turns there, whether the refereeing decisions or not. We can go down whatever road you want with that. But Celtic's performance was heavily influenced. So there's two things to the penalty miss. It shows that Ida's not quite found his space at Celtic yet. He's not quite up to feeling that maverick sort of striker role. They need to have more confidence in themselves. But notwithstanding that, it also shows the fragilities of the team's mentality. That when you do miss a penalty like that, the rest of them kind of heads go down as well, don't they? And I thought the whole performance took a different turn, Terry, after that penalty miss as well, regardless of the refereeing decisions, which I think played a massive part, obviously, in the outcomes today. But we can't allow ourselves to get overly bogged down when we have moments of adversity. I've spoken about this on the channel before. When the Celtic team faces adversity, there does seem to be a wave of panic that seeps across at least 60-70% of the guys on the pitch at that moment in time. And that worries me when it's a title running, because there's going to be a lot of peaks and troughs ahead. They need to be able to overcome adversities a bit better.
It's a difficult one, Bhoycie, because like I say, if he scores that, I think the game pans out completely differently. We're probably sitting here having a different conversation, and we're a point clear. See this penalty kick issue. Somebody at the club needs to take ownership of this and get this resolved. This is just beyond a joke. And my thoughts on it have been the captain has to take responsibility. Now, McGregor wasn't on today. We don't even know how big an influence that was in the game, because to me, the game was done the minute that red card was given to Yang. The game's done. See, if you have a guy sent off with 10 minutes to go, you can probably find a way to hold on. But see, 75 minutes against 10 men, it doesn't matter who you're playing in this league. That's a tough ask. And see from 15 minutes onwards, I just don't care about the game, because I think the game's gone at that stage. I don't see how you can play 10 against 11 for 75 minutes at Tynecastle and expect to win the game. I think that's the pivotal decision. But I also think we've allowed that scenario to happen. One, by missing the penalty, because everything after that is totally different. And then probably a little bit of naivety on Yang's part, although I think that's probably harsh. I genuinely think that's harsh. But see, this penalty thing, somebody has to take control of this. Now, I'd have had to take that one today because he took the 2 against Hibs. But we've got to find a solution to this. This is costing us. It's costing us points. If we miss one and we're 5-0 up, it doesn't matter. But we've missed penalties home to Motherwell and away to Hearts, both in the last 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is, and they've cost us points in this league title. It is not difficult to score a penalty kick. It is not difficult to score a penalty kick, and it's now become a massive psychological issue. And as you say, that goes in, the tails are up, we probably go on and win the game comfortably, if I'm being honest. But it doesn't go in, the heads go down, luck then goes, well, I say luck, decisions then go against you, and before you know it, you've spilled the 3 points. Somebody needs to take control of that. I think it sits with the captain. I don't blame CCV because he's a standing captain today, and Ida had scored the last 2. But see, going forward, if we get a penalty kick, the captain has to take it. He has to take responsibility, and he has to put the ball in the back of the net.
Well, yes, I agree with you. And I think it's a strange thing for it to have been going on with so many different players as well. How is it even go about addressing it? That's what I don't get. Because the actual
responsibility has to be a responsibility. Captain does it.
Yep.
The captain across the city does it. If he misses, he still takes the next one. Now he gets plenty of practice. He gets plenty of practice. But we've had plenty. Bhoycie, we've had plenty of them this season. The captain has to stand up and take them. I don't care. It's too big a problem. See, whenever it becomes a big problem and other players in the team are struggling with it, it's a responsibility thing. It has to be the captain. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
If that means CCV, a standing captain, get up and take it. So be it.
Stole my question, Terry.
Up you go, big man.
I was just about to ask you that very question. So, with Cal Maka absent, do you think if no one looks like they fancy, how can you identify though? If how can you identify if they fancy it or not? It's a weird one
because they keep missing them. That's how you identify it. They keep missing them.
That's a good point. Right?
Why is Matt O'Reilly not stood up and took one, Bhoycie? One of the cleanest strikers of a ball at the club. Why is he not took one yet? I mean, everybody else is.
I know.
He just mustn't fancy it. He mustn't fancy it.
I suppose you can admire the honesty in that. At least he's not faking it that he does fancy it and then absolutely bottle jobs it when he does. Then go on to take it, because that's what we're looking at right now. 5 out of the last 10. Interesting. Anyway, you're right to bring up then the red card. Things went from looking very, very promising to
take it back, Bhoycie. Let's be.
That's the last thing you get Sam Booker before we come on. I swear to God.
Let's take it back to the award of the penalty. Let's get your thoughts on that. So first view, I think, this could be interesting. I see it back. I think it's very, very soft. I think Yang has got himself into the right position, but I don't think the defender has fouled him. I genuinely don't. I don't think, on the face of it, having watched it a few times, I see why the referee's given it, but I don't think that's a penalty kick. What do you think?
I think you're in a strange space when it goes to VAR, and they look at it. They go, well, technically it is a foul. But I'm amazed that a referee would react to giving it a foul. Do you know what I mean? You would think it would need to be. I would think it would need to be VAR that would step in to tell a referee rather than a referee giving that impulsively. It looks so minimal. Then when it goes to VAR, they've got to carry it out, bang onto the letters of the law, and go, well, there is contact, so you're right to award the pen. And in my mind, that makes it almost a non-contact sport, Terry. I think these sort of brushes against each other are inevitable. That's going to happen. And if this is the question me and you always asked the last 2 years of doing this. If I went against Celtic, how would we be reacting right now? And I think the honest truth is we would not be very happy if that had been awarded against us. Would that be fair?
I was about to say something there, Bhoycie, and I just reined myself in. I was about to say it's a man's game. It's a man's game. It's a man's game, and it's a women's game as well. It's a women's game. It's
everyone's game, yes.
Contact sport. It's a contact sport, and every single contact doesn't have to be a foul, a penalty, a free kick. a red card, a yellow card. See, this football, if this keeps going the way it's going, in 5-10 years' time, this will be like basketball, where you just cannot touch anybody. If somebody else has got the ball, you've just got to stand back and let them do their thing. That's how this game's going. If it goes that way, I'll not be watching it in 10 years' time. I'll not be sitting here with you when I'm 60 years old debating crap about this game. Honestly, it's turning into an absolute joke of a game. And I was at the kids' football this morning as well. And I watched the game delayed again. The two boys were both playing on two different pitches. I was running from one pitch to the other pitch, trying to watch the two of them. And see, watching kids' football, it's so refreshing to watch it versus the professional game, because it's honest, it's endeavour, and the referees allow it to go a wee bit. See the way this professional game's going at the minute, it's just a joke. If I was a child growing up now, I don't think I'd even be interested in football because of the way it is. But
it is. It is.
But the thing is, Scottish football, and I mean this, and this isn't sour grapes, because I can take a defeat like anybody. Absolutely no problem at all. See if we're beat fair and square, no problem at all. Hold my hands up, better team won. Scottish football is refereed in a completely different way to, I don't know, what time is it? Half 3. There's an EPL game coming on here shortly. Manchester United against Man City against Man United. That game will be refereed in a completely different way than Celtic versus Hearts was refereed today. But the rules of the game are still the same. But Scottish football, for whatever reason, is refereed in a different way than the rest of the games I watch from anywhere else. That red card for Yang, if that happens in the Manchester Derby match today, that'll be a yellow card. Don Robertson was standing right beside it. He's seen the contact and he gave a yellow card. He's the best position to make a decision on that. He gives a yellow card. Why is John Beaton even getting involved in that situation? He doesn't need to get involved. The manager name-checked him after the match. That's a really risky thing for the manager of a team to do. He didn't talk about the fourth official. He actually name-checked him as John Beaton. Now, I'm not advocating anybody goes and does anything crazy to try and take retribution against John Beaton, but Brendan Rodgers is a very clever person, and he watches what he says. And we've talked about how maybe at times this season he said things that he maybe then regrets afterwards. He might regret mentioning John Beaton's name, but for him to actually mention John Beaton, that puts a connotation there that was John Beaton intervening for John Beaton reasons, rather than a fourth official intervening because he has thought that a referee has made a serious misjudgment. That referee is standing right beside that incident where Yang ends up with a red card. And in any other game across Europe or across the world today, that will be a yellow card, and it will stay a yellow card. And the VAR won't get involved, and the on-field referee won't feel he's pressured to change his mind. That's a yellow card. John Beaton has got involved, probably influenced by events of yesterday, and he has decided that he's going to play his part in this title race. And I'll tell you what, Bhoycie, I'm not annoyed about this Celtic performance. I think you have to write it off. And I seen the chat just before we come on, and a lot of people are unhappy with the Celtic performance. You can't expect your team to win a game when you're a man down for 75 minutes. It doesn't matter who you're playing. And Tynecastle is the second hardest away fixture that we have. It's a notoriously difficult place for us to go, and for us to play 75 with 10 men. I knew as soon as that card was given, that's game over. It doesn't matter what happens after that. It's game over. You've absolutely no chance. A man down for 75 minutes. But John Beaton has decided to influence this league title. And what I expect to see happen here, and what I hope to see happen, is that Brendan Rodgers turns that anger that he's got today into something that galvanizes us for the rest of this. Because remember, we talked during the week, Bhoycie. Listen,
how many times are we going to hear the word though about galvanizing?
Let me finish. It might take that external influence. That might be the one that does it. I don't. I'll be honest, I don't see anything to laugh about, Bhoycie. Honestly, I don't see anything to laugh about. I think if we get the right decisions today, and even if that wasn't a penalty, we'd have been better off with that penalty not being given, because then the game doesn't play out the same way. We don't lose that game today unless Jan gets sent off. We genuinely don't. And I think if we had went into this weekend, right, see yesterday morning at 11 o'clock, if I had said to you, there's 10 games still to go, we're 2 points behind, Rangers are home to Motherwell, we're away to Hearts. If that goes down to 9 games and we're still 2 behind, would you take it? Would you have shook my hand yesterday and took that situation where there's a status quo? Absolutely you would. Now, things didn't play out like that. We got an opportunity to get our noses back in front. It hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. However, I would have shook anybody's hand for the status quo going into this weekend. And that's what we've got. So I'm more than happy to wipe today out as a write-off. Honestly, I am. I don't blame... I blame Ida for a shite penalty. I genuinely blame him for a shite penalty. And if he gets that, it's a different conversation. But once Yang's sent off, I absolve the team from everything from after that. You've no chance. You've absolutely no chance with 10 men for 75 minutes. None whatsoever. And I just hope the manager can use this as something to galvanise the players for the next 9 games. I'd have been more than happy with 9 games to go. We're 2 behind at the start of this weekend, and that's where we're at. We've got 5 games at home, with 4 games away. There'll probably be all sorts of skullduggery with the split and stuff like that. But we're still in here. We're still fighting, and I think we've an even stronger cause now to try and drive this thing over the line. See if we get this one over the line. This will be the sweetest. This will be the sweetest of them all.
Well, I think, there's always a reason for that as well. I wonder if, as well, you're right when it comes to whether the narrative's accurate from Brendan's. A lot of people coming in the chat saying, it's excuses and stuff, and that's fair enough. We're only talk about decisions made and then give our take on them and why they were made, and then listen to what Brendan says and give our thoughts on that. It's kind of all that's happening. When Brendan does go down the line though, of talking about, it's a competency issue with Scottish officiating, that is deliberate rhetoric, undeniably, to shift the focus onto the referees and VAR and take the heat off his team. Now, he's done something obviously similar with the good girl thing a couple of weeks ago. We thought that siege mentality would do us in good stead. And I don't know, with regards to the wider performance, Terry, when you say 10 men, we had no chance, I'm not sure no chance is fair. But I think one thing we can look at is how do you think Celtic actually performed during that 75 minutes? Was it a really lacklustre display, or was it one that inevitably ended in failure because it was 10 against 11? Was the endeavour there? Was the effort there? Was you seen the sort of desire for the team that you'd be looking for in a title race, just with the odds a bit against them?
My own thoughts, I think you've no chance. I think you've no chance 75 minutes away.
No, I'm asking, what did you make of the performance? Sorry, Terry. The actual 75 minutes, what did you make of it?
It's what I expected, Bhoycie. That's what I expected. When my heart sunk when I seen that red card. I didn't see any way we get a result after that. Now, that's not me trying to just... Actually, it is. I'm just absolving all blame. I'm absolving all blame from the team. I genuinely don't see how you can expect to get a result once you're down a man for that length of time. It's just too big an obstacle. It's too big an obstacle. And I think the manager talking about incompetence, I don't think he believes it's incompetence. I don't think he names the 4th official if he thinks it's incompetence. He knows what's going on here. Listen, that guy will not have to buy any pints down his local tonight. Let's put it like that. And I don't know where we go with this, because it doesn't sit well with me sitting talking about VAR officials.
Well, that's why I'm asking you about the team performance. That's what I want to stick on to now.
It's what I expected. What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do a man down? Yep. There's a reason why it's 11-side game. You need 11 players to get it done. I don't see what the team could have done. Honestly, I don't know. No, there was instances. Let's talk about Iwata dwelling on the ball. I
thought that's coming. Yeah. What did you make of that? Because it's been interesting. The narrative with Iwata, Terry, over the last week or two, has been very much like that's what's been missing in the midfield. He brings the balance. How's he been so underused? And then today you look at him and it's like, wow, mate, like get your fucking head out the sand. You know what I mean? Your head out your arse, more importantly, because You don't get time to dwell on the ball like that, especially at a place like Tynecastle. You're down to 10 men as it is. We're in a title race. All these factors should be ramping up your alertness, making you, totally focused on the task at hand. And instead, he looked lackadaisical in that moment, to be totally honest with you. And at that point, it was close to, it could have been 2-0, albeit the goal disallowed. But that would have been, I think, if had that second goal gone in, you talk about with regards to the penalty, other things don't happen. I think if that second goal is allowed for Hearts, we could have been looking at a far worse scoreline than what it ended up. I know it finished 2-0 in the end, but I think if that second goal goes in at half-time, fuck knows what could have happened after, who knows. But I just think it could have got worse. And I think there would have been a lot of focus of today's topics that we're talking about on that sort of approach when you're on the ball. Are you getting the situation we're in right now? Is the enormity or the scale of what's required to get us over the line in the title race, is that not somehow registering with certain players? Because that Iwata moment there, that grabs your attention for all the wrong reasons. It's not what we're looking for at all.
It does, Bhoycie, but he's the same Iwata that everybody was waxing lyrical about over the last.
I know.
You know what I mean? And it's a different game. See when you have 10 men and you've got the ball, you don't have the same options. You don't have the same options. You've got 11 men, and I totally get people will talk about today's performance being inept. I just think you've got to wipe it out. I don't see any other way we can deal with it. You just can't. 10 men for 75 minutes, you're just not going to get the result unless you're playing against Buckie Thistle or something like in the cup. We might have been able to do it, but at the professional game, even in the SPL, where player for player we're better, there's a reason why it's 11 aside. You need 11 players to play against the 11. And see, this is the last comment I'll make around the red card. But see when Don Robertson goes over, see when he comes back, watch it back. See when Don Robertson comes back onto the pitch to change it from a yellow to a red, he can't even look Yang in the eye. He's not even looking at Yang. He looks the opposite direction and puts the card up because Don Robertson knows it's not a red card. Don Robertson knows. I've seen this live. I know. I've seen this in real time. I know that there's no intent. I know that there's no malice. And I also know that there's no aggression in that contact. I was beside it. I seen it. I heard the contact. It's a yellow card. However, because his colleague has called him over, because there's only 3 times in VAR history in the SPL that somebody has had the balls to stick up for their own decision, Don Robertson knows that he's coming back to give the wrong decision. He can't even look the lad in the eye. He's looking the opposite direction and he's given the card like that because Don Robertson knows that in his gut, he knows he's making the wrong call by overturning that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I thought it looked nonsense, but at the same time, where the game's going these days, we've got to be more conscious that these decisions can occur. The game's soft, Terry, as it is. I mean, I always go back to that Maeda one in Europe this season when he got the red card away to Atletico Madrid. And I think in 10 years, we'll look back at that and go, it's the most stonewall red card you've ever seen. Just such is the nature of how these decisions get made now. Anyway, that aside, where Celtic now take their crumb of comfort from is, as you've touched on already, the fact the league is very much as you were, all right, because of Rangers' defeat yesterday. So let's rewind going into this weekend before we knew that Rangers would lose at home to Motherwell.
Yeah.
How confident were you of us keeping it within touch and distance, keeping that 2-point gap? I wasn't overly confident it would still be just 2 points come Monday. Do you know what I mean? I know that sounds really fucking like doom and gloom.
I'd bet your hand off. I'd have bet your hand off for where we're at.
Me too. Now. I agree. You know what I mean? That is the fucking fickle nature of this mad season, isn't it?
Let's build from that base. I would have bet your hand off for where we're at right now. So
fucking mental.
That's the base. That's where we're at. Okay. Do you know what I mean? We're going to Tynecastle, Rangers are home to Motherwell. I would have bet your hand off for us still to be 2 points behind come this minute right now. So you've got to find a way to turn this into a positive. Otherwise, you'll just be frying your head all night. You'll not sleep. You'll have a bad week all week.
It's an interesting one.
I would have took this.
Not just would you have took it, were you confident of Celtic keeping keeping the 2-point gap, because I genuinely wasn't, man.
No, it's
I know it's ridiculous to be turning this into a positive, but somehow or other, I think the odds of us staying just 2 points behind come Monday, or come Sunday afternoon, would have been pretty slim. Because I've no faith that Celtic go to Hearts and get 3 points. So thank fuck they absolutely shat the bed on the Saturday. I mean, there's a lot of them coming in laughing today, but we got beat at home off Motherwell yesterday.
They weren't laughing yesterday. There
beat at home off Motherwell. We know going to Tynecastle was going to be a struggle for us. And with 10 men, it was an even bigger struggle. So what? It was very, very strange that the way it's panned out this weekend, it remains 2 points. Everything still is in Celtic's hands, Terry.
It doesn't matter what happened this weekend, Bhoycie. The only thing that matters at the end of the season is whether Callum McGregor or James Tavernier is standing there with the league trophy. That's the only thing that matters. And there'll be ups and downs over the next 9 games. This weekend, we were up yesterday. Today, we're down. There's 9 games to go. It's still in our hands. Only thing that matters. And in months and years to come, the way this season played out, you and I talked about it during the week, it's been one of the most crazy seasons ever. It won't actually matter. You won't remember it. The only thing you remember is which one of those 2 captains is standing there with the trophy on Flag Day in May. And I actually think we're a step closer now than we were on Friday, because we've had one of the hardest away games, and Rangers had a home game that you would expect to be a straightforward 3 points. We've 9 games left. We should hopefully have 5 at home, 4 away. They should hopefully be 5 away, 4 at home. It's all to play for. We can't dwell on today. The cup's getting in the way of a good title race, because I'm pretty sure it's the cup next week. It is what it is. Okay. There's nothing we can do. We can't change what's happened in the last 3 hours. Did I going in after what happened yesterday? Did I want and expect and hope that we would end up a point clear? Absolutely. But in the grand scheme of things, though, Bhoycie, it doesn't really change a great deal whether we're 1 clear or 2 behind. It doesn't change a great deal. It's going to come down to probably these 2 games against each other. And if we can find a way to get 4 points out of those 2 games,
the
chances are it'll be McGregor standing with his hands on the trophy.
On the trophy, yeah. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with putting a positive spin on it. See, anyone that just wants to be doom and gloom for the rest of their fucking days can crack on. But that's not why we watch football. I'm always going to have a wee bit of a giggle with it and always try and turn it into, actually, the brighter side of life is, and in this case, it's the fact we're still the exact same amount of points behind as what we were at the beginning of the weekend. See if folk are like, oh my God, this is really difficult to deal with. Fuck off.
How did you feel, Bhoycie? How did you feel when Yang was sent off? To me, the game was done.
We're not talking about it anymore. We're going back to Celtic.
I know it's still done.
I'm
interested to understand how you felt. I felt the game was done.
I had no faith that Celtic team would go on and get the win. That's the reality. Glasgow CSC, though, with a wider point to it, and I think this is a good discussion point. Glasgow CSC has been very much in the live chat of the side of, let's talk about the fucking level of performance Celtic put in, and no, let's not talk about the officialdom, and that's fine. I want to bring balance to it and talk about originally the decisions made. I think we've covered all that, and now talk about the Celtic performances of a wider scale we've done. Now Glasgow CSC wants to look at the season as a bigger picture. And he wants to talk about 17 points dropped already. And he simply says, there's your discussion. It sounds a hell of a lot of points when it's put like that, Terry. But when you look at how many points Celtic tend to accumulate when they win the league, and we win a lot of leagues, just so you know, a lot of leagues, it's usually between 90 and 100 points that we get, right? That's quite often on course for between 90 and 100 again. So 17 points drop. Again, it sounds like I'm putting positive spin on it. But it depends. It depends what way you look at it. I think a lot of points get dropped in other seasons, but Rangers are that far behind. There's not the same microscope on every single result that goes bad. This is the nature of being in a title race again. But I don't know the numbers. I don't do fact-checking and stats and do my homework, Terry, like I should, like a good boy. But undeniably, undeniably, 17 points dropped is probably par for the course most title-winning seasons, I would say.
Yeah, it probably is. But when you look at how those 17 points were dropped, let me just read that. Give yourself a shake. When you think about how those 17 games have been, or 17 points have been dropped, Bhoycie, considering you've won both of the big matches against Rangers, for us to be behind is unacceptable. It genuinely is. Like if we'd shared the points with them and everything was tight, we've actually won both of those games and we still find ourselves behind. And we find ourselves behind primarily because of drop points at home. And if you think back over a lot of those successes, and you're very right to point out, there's been a lot of title successes in the medium, sort of short to medium to long term. But it's the points dropped at home that have really cost us this season. It's the points drop. If you remember, a couple of games in, a 0-0 against St Johnstone, a St Johnstone team that were shipping goals in the League Cup against Stirling Albion and lower league teams who were getting hammered, and then we couldn't score against them. Then you've got points dropped at home against Motherwell, against today's opponent's Hearts. Points dropped at home against Kilmarnock. If you're sitting after the first two Celtic Rangers games and you've come out of those with 2 victories, you do not expect to be behind. So we've probably thrown this title away if we end up losing it. However, what's gone before now is gone. We're 29 games in, we've 9 to go. We can't change whatever's happened in those first 29 games. The only way we can now get this thing over the line is to outperform Rangers in the next 9 matches. So I totally get the point, but I don't see the value in going back over it again. We've been over it. We know we haven't been good enough in the first 29 games. That's why we're behind. We know that Brendan Rodgers' return hasn't been what we'd hoped and dreamed and expected it to be. We know that the team of players we've got are not as good as the team of players that we had last season. But we can't change what's happened. We're here. We're here with 9 weeks to go, and we're still within touching distance, and we still have an opportunity to get it done. I just think any emotion now directed towards the past is wasted emotion, because we can't change it. We can't change it, and we can sit here and we can throw in the towel and we can give up on this year's title, or we can try and find some kind of hope and find some way of cheering ourselves up and some kind of way of seeing a pathway where we might actually still win this damn thing. And exactly. It's not been good enough. This season has not been good enough. It's been shocking. Yeah. It's been absolutely shocking. But we are where we are. We know the players aren't good enough. We know the manager isn't the same manager that we had 5 years ago or 7 years ago or whenever he first came in or whatever it was. We know all that. We know there's been failings in the boardroom. We know there's been failings in recruitment. But we are where we are. And I think we just have to let all of that go and try to find a way to be positive. Try and find a way to be positive for the next 2 months, because I don't want to be...
Well, this is it. Do you know what, though, Terry? It's been one of those seasons where everything from performances to transfers to the mood music, you know, the fans' sort of apathy towards this team as well. Everything's been negative, and yet we're still in touching distance. How shite are they? If you think about it, I expect when Celtic have a season of disarray like this, us to be very much miles off it, like miles away from. We're still very much in this. See, for it still to be in our hands, despite all the negativity of this season, and there's been many reasons for that, all self-inflicted in my opinion as well, so it's not excuses. I can't even believe we are still, with 9 weeks to go, as you say, still got it in our hands. I actually can't go over that. But anyway, it is happy days. A lot of people laughing today that they're 2 points clear of Celtic could apparently shite. 2 points. They've played us twice this year, lost twice. 2 more times we play each other. Just, I don't know. I think they get carried away. I mean, see, to be fair, it's the first time they've been top of the league for a few weeks in fucking 3 years. Since fans have been allowed in, it's about 14 years. So I give them their props. They like to get a wee bit carried away on a Sunday afternoon. They just got beat off Motherwell 2-1 at home. It's been a good weekend for them as well. Jake Paul comes in.
Go ahead.
All the people calling for McGregor to be dropped. I'm not quite sure how many folk have been calling for it. I suppose there's been a few people not overly impressed with McGregor at times this season. I'll take the point. And he says, look at the state of that midfield without him. Terry, what do you make of that?
Midfield's playing my man down. What do you expect?
Do you think
you can't judge that performance?
It's difficult, eh?
Honestly, you can't judge it. You can't turn around. You can't turn around and go, "Oh, it's because McGregor." You're playing a man down. I just don't. I don't know. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but I just don't know what you expect when you're a man down. I just don't know what people expect. You can't judge it. Do you know what? I wanted McGregor to be fit. However, I still felt that what we had would have been enough on a level playing field to get the job done. We'll never know. But it's just such a different game when you're a man down. I don't know. Maybe I might be oversimplifying it. I just don't see how you can make judgments on that performance whenever it was an on-level playing field. I don't know. Maybe I've just green-tinted glasses on, me being prepared to write it off, but I don't see what else you can do.
No, I get you, mate. I get you. I mean, yeah, with McGregor out the team, it's not really a fair sort of comparison to make to what we would get a real viewpoint of it when, as you say, so early on in the game you go down to 10. Anyway, let's call it there. There's still very much of this story to be written. Depends what story it is that's getting written.
We haven't even touched on the worst decision of the whole lot.
Oh, sorry, Terry, go on.
The one that Chris Boyd said was a joke.
It was when you told me, though, Terry, that you weren't talking about officials anymore. I took you at gospel. You said it was the last thing.
No, I said I wasn't talking about the red card.
I'm sure you said if
Chris Boyd said the penalty was a joke, Lawrence Shankland said the red was a joke, Stephen Naismith said the penalty was a joke. How is that a penalty, Russell? Will you ever see a penalty in any other league being given this weekend for a handball where a player is looking in the opposite direction and he gets a nudge which results in his hand touching the ball? Do you think?
As I say, I'm getting worried though that we get to the stage that in 10 years' time, if we are still doing this madness, Terry, and putting ourselves through the mire of doing P.M.P after Celtic defeats, I'd be surprised. I wonder if in 10 years' time you'd look at that and go, "Oh, it's a Stonewall. It's a given. That's a handball." That's just how the game's. Do you know where it's going? I'm not saying I agree with it. That's not. You need to listen to what I'm saying, though. I think that's the way these decisions are now going. I don't think there's any sort of common sense used anymore. Any sort of just footballing savvy. It seems to be very strict to the letter of the law, but how you could take it too literally, I don't know some of these rules, but I don't know what it's meant to do there. I don't get it, but
should we call
it is given. And like I say, I just think we'll see more and more of that will become the norm, that those sort of decisions get given.
No, they won't, Bhoycie. They won't. They're not.
Well,
they're not given game in, game out. They're only given in certain scenarios. And the scenario is when the team's wearing green and white. And the last time I seen a penalty given like that was where Bernabei was facing the other direction and the ball hits him whilst he's looking in the opposite direction with his hands in a natural position when you jump to try and attack a ball. Now, if Chris Boyd is saying that decision is a joke, then you know it's a joke. That decision isn't given in any other league against any other team. Last weekend, we won the match. And when I was talking to Phil, I talked about a penalty decision that we didn't get, where a guy was facing the play and he lifted his hand like that and the ball hit his hand. You've now got one today where a guy's not facing where the ball's coming from. He's been nudged and the ball has been headed against his arm from about a yard away. The referee, again, has seen it in real time. He knows that's not a penalty, but his mate calls him over. His mate puts him under that pressure. And you know when he's going over there, he's not going to have the balls to stick to his guns. We've seen it last week as well. The referee in the Celtic Motherwell game was called over to look at a red card decision. And he stuck to his guns. That guy today should have stuck to his guns. He knew both of those decisions weren't right. But because he got called over, he shit himself. He absolutely shit himself. If that's a penalty, Bhoycie, we might as well close the shop up. Honestly, it's a complete joke. And again, I don't like bleating on about referees. Don't like bleating on about decisions. I just think Celtic should still find a way to get the job done. But see, when it's like that, Bhoycie, what chance have you got? Honestly.
No, I get that. I mean, your Mark comes back and he says, was a penalty, lads? No, so we've got to... Well, that's why we spoke about that penalty decision earlier, your Ma. That's why we spoke about it, mate. Like, and we all agreed. We thought it was soft. Like, we're allowed to talk about both penalties. I think you're nitpicking a wee bit today, big man, because you want it all to be negative on Celtic, and I ain't just going down that road. I'm just going to look at each decision as they are individually, and we said the first one was soft, and we think this one was a wrong decision as well. There you go. You can't win sometimes, Terry. I think it's not all doom and gloom, though. We remain 2 points behind. The title race remains on. Caught it there because I can't be bothered anymore. I think I've banned about 4,000 for the live chat today. It's great fun. There's one there. Bluebells are blue. Great username. That's really inventive. You're banned and all. See ya. Cheers, Terry, for your input today, pal.
Yeah,
enjoy it. Take it easy.